Introducing Gregory from Ace Maker Aviation. Renowned for his expertise on this aircraft, Gregory is currently supporting a groundbreaking collaboration with iniBuilds on the development of the iniBuilds T-33 jet trainer. Take a look at Matthew's visit from the iniBuilds team to Yolo County Airport and his interview with Gregory.
I'm Gregory Wired Colyer with the T-33 Shooting Star, Ace Maker 3, which is also serial number 610. And I'm with Ace Maker Aviation and doing business as Ace Maker Air Shows. Aviation to me has been a passion since I can remember. My mom said I started talking about being a pilot when I was 4 or 5 years old. No aviators in my family, so I don't know where that bug came from, but I had it at a very early age. Took my first flight at age 7. My mom worked for an oral surgeon who I found out had an airplane, so I begged my mom to ask him for a ride, and I got my first ride at 7, which pretty much cemented it for me. But then it was till I was 18, till I was flying again when I achieved my private pilot's license. One thing led to another. Served in the U.S. Army, and then got out, tried to be an airline pilot. Couldn't live off the wages that they paid back in the early 80s. So I became an air traffic controller, continued to fly until I purchased my first aircraft, which was an L-29 Delphin jet out of Romania back in 2000. I flew that until I acquired my serial number 306 Ace Maker, the original Ace Maker jet, in 2008. The T-Bird to me was always one of my favorite jets when I was growing up as a kid. And then here I am 16 years later with 3 aircraft and full-time air show test pilot instructor. Other aviation experience, I've flown a 737, Gulfstream 550. I was a first officer for SkyWest Airlines flying an E-175. For me, the T-33, or originally the F-80 or P-80, we're at an airport, right? Don't they know we're trying to film something? So growing up, the Shooting Star was a particular favorite aircraft of mine. One, it was the first Skunk Works design with Kelly Johnson, our first operational jet fighter at the end of World War II. There's actually a squadron in Italy before the war ended, although they never saw combat. Frontline fighter when the Korean War started. It was in all the old aviation movies I used to watch. Then the T-33, which started life as a TF-80, which was the first 2-seater to train the new pilots coming into jets. Then they redesignated it the T-33, but it's still that iconic Shooting Star profile, and it's just a fabulous jet to fly. We came up with the Ace Maker because every jet ace we had in the Korean conflict flew the T-33 in training. So it was known as the maker of jet aces. Originally, when I bought the aircraft, I was just gonna have 5 ace cards, and call it the Ace Maker. And then my son told me, just have 4 aces and have the middle card be a joker wearing a flight helmet. So I told my buddy, Don Ritchie, who painted my nose art for me, the idea, and he's like, I got something better for you. And then he came up with this design, and it stuck, and it became wildly popular. Even before I started flying air shows, when I just went to a couple shows as a static display, this was always like, oh my God, you look at that nose art. It was good for marketing, and when I started flying shows, it helped me tremendously having a recognizable name. The T-33 is first, it flies like a fighter, not like a trainer, because it was designed, it's the only trainer that started life as a fighter. So it has those fighter characteristics. It has rods and cables, except for the ailerons, which are hydraulically boosted. But the T-33 is an extremely honest airframe. And it's, in one aspect, it's easy to fly, but it's a very hard airplane to fly precisely because of its unique characteristics. But it's still the fastest straight wing jet out there with a V&E of 505 knots, Mach 0.80. Other jets have those same V&Es, but they actually cannot get there. The T-Bird, and for flying my displays, is great for energy. I can slow down, I can speed up. It's extremely sensitive on the controls, pitch and ailerons. When I go to test pilot school, it's usually the student's favorite airplane they fly for the whole thing. It's a remarkable aircraft. Kelly Johnson, his first swing at it. It went from, sharpening a pencil to first flight in 143 days. I don't think you can name an airplane today in 143 days, let alone design one and fly it. His lineage with the SR-71, the U-2, the F-104 Starfighter, it's an incredible aircraft. When it became the primary jet trainer, students would go from the T-33 straight into a Century Series fighter as the F-104, the F-106, those jets didn't have 2-seat variants. So just like in World War II, where the Stearman prepared people to fly the T-6, and then the T-6 prepared people to fly the Mustang was actually a much easier airplane to fly, or Corsair was, than the T-6 was. So the T-33, although it didn't have you weren't flying it at the speeds those Century Series fighters were flying. All the old timers that flew this thing, when I go to a show and they talk to me, they told me, if you can fly a T-33 in formation and IMC, you can fly anything in the inventory. It's that hard airplane to fly precisely part that prepared all the pilots to fly all those Century Series fighters. And even when the T-33 was replaced by the T-37 and T-38 for primary training, people would graduate flight school in a T-38, go to their F-106 squadron, and this is the jet they had to fly before they could get into the 106. Even though it's an old design, it's a remarkable aircraft. So as far as the simulator goes, if you can get really good at flying the T-33 in the sim, in formation and IMC and the engine temperatures and all its unique characteristics, you'll be able to master the advanced aircraft a lot easier. Some of the unique characteristics of this jet you'll need to master to fly it successfully is, one, the fuel system is all manual. You can easily run this jet out of gas with a lot of gas still in the airplane. You know, you have 6 fuel tanks, there's 3 on each. You have the tip tanks, the leading edges, the wings on both sides, and then they both feed the fuselage tank, which feeds the engine. And you can't burn them all at the same time and turn them off as they empty out, because the engine can only burn so much gas and the fuselage tank can only hold so much gas. So whatever that doesn't burn or hold gets pumped overboard, and you have no way of knowing until you're down to your last 700 pounds of gas. That was one of the biggest problems in Canada and the US of losing jets, was running out of gas when they still had fuel in the airplane. That's the first thing that you have to master. And the fuel system is on your left and right. You know, it's 1940s design, so you're like, some stuff's over here out of your sight, and you have one thing over here, maybe a little red light that tells you the fuel tank, you know, hey, you're gonna run out of gas. The Canadians improved it a little bit. They gave you an audible warning in your helmet when they overhauled them, just to help people with that. And then as far as the controls go, the pitch is extremely sensitive, and then the ailerons are also extremely, extremely sensitive. And the biggest problem with real pilots is getting into a pilot-induced oscillation on the ailerons, because they put in, you know, it starts going one way, so they pull the stick the other direction, and then they can't stop it. So, and that's a big thing too about IMC flying, formation flying. You can turn off the boost, which makes the wings level and you can control it, but in a real airplane, it's, depending on how fast you're going, could be 50 to 100 pounds of pressure to actually move the stick. So I don't know if we can replicate that in the sim or not, but so those are some of the unique characteristics that make the aircraft hard to master. Hey, and then the iniBuilds T-33 Shooting Star is so much like the real aircraft that I use it to fly my show sites before I go to the show. It helps me not only get all the landmarks, the way that the aircraft performs in the sim, it's like the real thing. So if I over-temp the motor in the sim, which is easy to do, I'm gonna over-temp it in the real world. So it's a remarkable sim, and I'm happy to endorse it.